It was supposed to be just another afternoon walk through the neighborhood, the kind that had become routine for us. I glanced over at my twin sister, Maya, as we strolled down the street, our sneakers hitting the pavement with a rhythmic thud. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows across the quiet suburban area. We were dressed in our usual gear, simple athletic hoodies and jeans. Nothing special, nothing to draw attention. But the moment we turned the corner onto the street that led to our apartment complex, everything shifted. A group of 3 guys stood by the curb, leaning against a beat-up old car, clearly waiting for us. They were the type that liked to think they ran the block, loud, brash, and looking for trouble. Their mocking smirks made it obvious. I could already feel my muscles tightening in response, the reflexes kicking in. I shot a glance at Maya. She didn't need to say a word, we both knew what was coming. The tallest one, a guy with a messy blonde crew cut, sneered as we walked past. "You girls lost," he called out, his voice dripping with false sweetness. Maya didn't flinch, but I could see her jaw tighten. We kept walking, keeping our heads high and our pace steady. We weren't interested in engaging, but that didn't stop him. "Yeah, look at these two," another one chimed in, a stocky guy with tattoos on his arms. "What do you think, boys? They look like they can handle themselves." There was a brief, uncomfortable silence, before the third one, a lanky guy with a long scar on his cheek, stepped forward. "What, you think you're tough or something?" His voice was low, dangerous, but the challenge in his eyes was unmistakable. I stopped walking, turning to face them. Maya mirrored my movement, her stance shifting, her hands ready. We didn't need words. We could handle this without a single punch if we played it right. But the look in their eyes said they weren't going to back down, not this time. They wanted a show. "Just walk away," I said, my voice calm, steady. I could see the surprise flicker in their eyes for a split second. They didn't expect that. "You want us to just leave you alone?" the tattooed guy asked with a laugh. "What are you going to do about it?" Maya stepped forward, her body language shifting to one of calm authority. "We're not looking for trouble," she said, but there was an edge in her voice now, the unmistakable tone that only comes when someone knows they can back up their words. The guy with the scar let out a low growl, his hand drifting toward his belt. That was the moment everything changed. As soon as his hand moved toward his belt, I knew we couldn't walk away. I locked eyes with Maya, and without a word, we shifted into position. It wasn't a dance we had rehearsed, but it was as natural as breathing. The scarred guy took a step forward, his hand now fully gripping a switchblade, the cold steel glinting in the fading light. He grinned, clearly relishing the tension. But that smile faltered when I took one step back and shifted my weight, getting into a stance he probably didn't expect. Maya was already one step ahead, moving to my side. Her body was coiled, ready to spring. "Think this'll be easy?" the blonde guy sneered, his voice laced with arrogance. He believed his size, his attitude, could intimidate us. But Maya and I weren't the type to be scared by posturing. I nodded at Maya, and the moment he lunged forward, it was like time slowed down. I ducked beneath his swing, using the momentum to propel myself upward. My knee connected with his chest with a force that knocked the wind out of him. He stumbled back, eyes wide in shock. Maya had already dealt with the tattooed guy, grabbing his arm and twisting it behind his back with such precision that he cried out, the blade he'd been brandishing now useless in his grasp. "You should have stayed on the sidelines," Maya said, her voice as cool as ice, as she wrenched his arm further behind him. The scarred guy was already recovering from his surprise attack, fury burning in his eyes. He slashed with the knife again, but this time, Maya anticipated it. She sidestepped his blade with ease, her movements fluid, almost effortless, as though she'd seen it all before. Without missing a beat, she took control of his wrist and twisted it, forcing him to drop the knife with a sharp grunt of pain. "Enough," I said, my voice steady. "It's over. You want to walk away, or should we make it more interesting?" The three of them were breathing heavily, all of their bravado evaporating. The blond guy, now clutching his ribs, looked at the two of us with newfound respect, or maybe fear. They weren't the ones in control anymore. "Let's go," the tattooed guy muttered, pulling at his friends. "This ain't worth it." I gave them one last look. "Next time, think twice before you pick a fight with someone you don't understand." As they retreated, Maya and I shared a look, an unspoken understanding passing between us. It was over. But something told me this wasn't the last time someone would underestimate us. We watched as the group of bullies hurried off, their heads low, the cocky swagger they'd arrived with completely gone. The street returned to its quiet hum, but I could still feel the adrenaline pulsing through my veins, my heart beating fast. Maya's breathing was steady, but I could see the slight curve of her lips, the faintest hint of a smile, as she turned back toward me. "Guess they learned a lesson today," she said, her voice laced with a quiet pride. It was rare for us to have to prove ourselves, but when it happened, it was always in a way that left no room for doubt. I nodded, still a little shaken by the intensity of it all. "They won't forget it. But I have a feeling they'll come looking for more." Maya's eyes narrowed slightly. "Let them. They're not the type to learn quickly." I agreed. People like that always came back, driven by some misplaced sense of pride or vengeance. The problem with people like them was that they didn't know when to quit, and they never expected to face someone who could fight back. But for now, we'd won. It was enough. We continued our walk, the mood lighter now, though the tension still lingered in the air. We didn't talk much after that, sometimes, there was no need. We understood each other without words, and that was the kind of bond we shared, stronger than anything they could ever throw at us. But as we reached the corner near our building, I saw someone new standing by the entrance. A tall man in a black hoodie, his face obscured by the shadows, was watching us from across the street. My instincts kicked in again, and I felt my muscles tense. "Do you see that?" I whispered to Maya. She nodded, her eyes narrowing as she turned toward the figure. "Yeah, I saw him. He's been there a while." I couldn't shake the feeling that our encounter wasn't over, and now this guy, whoever he was part of whatever was coming next. But there was no way we were going to back down. "Stay close," Maya said, her voice low but resolute. We approached the building slowly, every step measured. The man didn't move, but his eyes tracked us, like a predator waiting for the right moment to strike. "Let's see what he wants," I muttered under my breath. As we got closer, the man finally stepped forward, pulling his hood back to reveal a face I didn't recognize, a scar running along his cheek, matching the one of the guy from earlier. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This was no coincidence. "I wouldn't go in if I were you," the man said, his voice low and cold. "Not yet." I stopped dead in my tracks, my heart rate spiking again. Maya instinctively mirrored my movement, shifting her stance slightly, ready for whatever this stranger might throw at us. I studied his face for any clue, but the scar along his cheek was the only thing that stood out, deep and jagged, like a reminder of a past fight that never ended. "You know, you're real persistent," Maya said, her voice sharp. "What do you want?" The man's lips twisted into a slight smirk, but his eyes remained calculating, sharp. "I'm just a messenger," he replied, his tone unnervingly calm. "I think you made a mistake with my friends." I glanced at Maya, who gave me a quick, almost imperceptible nod. We were getting the feeling this wasn't just about those three guys from earlier. This was something bigger, and we weren't going to let it spiral out of control. "Your friends? You mean the guys who tried to attack us?" I asked, keeping my voice even. "If you're here for them, you can tell them that they won't get another chance to pull that stunt. They had their shot." The man let out a dry laugh, but it lacked humor. "You really think they learned? They're not the problem. I'm the one you need to worry about now." I tensed at his words. This wasn't just some petty revenge plot. He wasn't backing down like the others. There was something much darker beneath his calm demeanor, something that made my skin crawl. "You're not going to scare us," Maya said firmly, stepping forward, her eyes locked on his. "If you want a fight, we're more than capable of giving it to you." The man's gaze flickered for a brief moment, an almost imperceptible shift in his eyes as if he was sizing us up. Then, he took a step closer. "I don't want a fight. I just want you to know that your little stunt has consequences. You've stirred up something you won't be able to walk away from." My grip tightened around the strap of my bag, my heart pounding harder with every word. "And what exactly does that mean?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he pulled out a small piece of paper from his pocket and handed it to me. It was a business card, but it wasn't for any normal business. The name on it was Shadow Syndicate, with a simple logo, a jagged shadow casting over the name. "Next time, it won't be just me coming after you," he said, his voice cold, like ice cutting through the night. "Remember this card, and remember me. We'll see each other again soon." With that, he turned and walked away, his footsteps echoing in the silence. I could feel Maya's eyes on me, her expression tight, her mind clearly racing. Neither of us said anything for a moment, processing the unsettling encounter. "What the hell was that?" I muttered, still holding the card between my fingers. The weight of it felt heavy, as if it carried a message we couldn't ignore. Maya exhaled slowly, her eyes still scanning the street as if expecting something to jump out from the shadows. "I don't know, but I don't like it. We're dealing with something bigger now. We need to find out who they are," I said, my voice hardening. "And we need to be ready." With a final glance at the street, we walked into the building, knowing that our quiet life had just been torn apart, and this was only the beginning. The building door slammed shut behind us, but the weight of what had just happened lingered in the air like a storm cloud that refused to pass. The silence in the hallway felt suffocating, and I could hear my own breath a little too loudly. We'd faced bullies before, but this felt different. This wasn't some street fight or neighborhood dispute. The card I still held in my hand was proof of that. Maya moved quickly, her steps echoing off the walls as she led the way up the stairs to our apartment. Her mind was already on the next move. She didn't speak, but I could see the gears turning behind her eyes. We were dealing with something deeper than we had anticipated. The Shadow Syndicate. A name that sent a chill through me, even though I had no idea what it meant. Inside our apartment, Maya threw her keys on the counter and turned to face me, her expression sharp and focused. "We need information. We can't let this slide." I nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "Agreed. But we can't go in blind. We need to know who we're up against." She paced for a moment, then stopped and looked me square in the eye. "We'll start with the card. We track them down, figure out who they are, and then we take the fight to them. But we need to be smart." I sat down, still clutching the card, feeling the chill of it in my palm. "We can't let this drag out. We need to strike first, before they have the chance to get to us." Maya gave a single, decisive nod. "We'll make it our fight. And we won't back down." I leaned back, taking a deep breath. We had already been underestimated. Now, we had the chance to flip the script once again. The fight was on, and this time, it was going to be on our terms. Whoever these people were, they had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. As I stared at the business card in my hand, I couldn't help but feel the weight of what was coming. The battle ahead wasn't going to be easy. But there was one thing I knew for sure: we weren't backing down. Not now, not ever. The world had just shifted. And now, the hunt was on.